And we are live. This is the Canada Hoops Daily Podcast. Rate us, review us, like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, it's Apple, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. You could be watching this on Instagram at the Canada Hoops Daily page. You could be watching this on Twitch. Lots of different places where this podcast is at. But wherever you happen to be, please do us a favor. Bless with the like, bless with the share. Tell your friends, tune in to this. That is the Canada Hoops Daily Podcast, where there's so much going on in the basketball world, and March Madness is here, both on the men's and women's side. So much time for us to discuss all those storylines as well. But, we focus in more so on the NBA, the Toronto Raptors, and just exactly what's going on there because, talking points aplenty when you look at the Toronto Raptors and the NBA as a whole. So, we're going to start things off there as we normally do each and every week, talking about the Toronto Raptors. And probably should have said this off the top. My name is Sheldon Alexander. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate that. A lot of things we want to get to here, right? A lot of things to discuss, both on the pod, whether you're watching audio or video pod. We thank you for that. But I want to start here. On this said podcast. What a difference a week makes. Because the way that we were talking about the Toronto Raptors last week versus the way we're talking about the Toronto Raptors this week, two completely different things. And the reason for that, as I just make sure that the stream is going correctly here, and it looks like it is up and running. But the reason for talking about the Toronto Raptors and what a difference a week makes is the last time we were talking about the Toronto Raptors, they were fresh off just getting embarrassed by DeJounte Murray and the New Orleans Pelicans, right? I think what happened there with the Toronto Raptors, it was a really tough ploy. It was a really tough time in Raptorland because things weren't going well. Things were not going well at all. The Raptors were in the midst of a losing streak. They couldn't really beat good teams. They were struggling a lot. And then you had DeJounte Murray crossing up Jamal Shead at the end of the Pelicans game and standing over top of him. And of course, all the discussion became about no response from the rest of the Raptors. They just stood there and watched their guy get punked while their team got punked by the Pelicans. And it just was not a good look. They'd lost 4 or 5. They'd fall into 7th place in the Eastern Conference. Things were not looking good. And we ended last week's segment talking about the Raptors, saying that, hey, this moment could sum up the season of disappointment, of lost opportunity, of, just being so frustrated at having everything right in front of you and then letting it slip away. Or could be a rallying cry in English. Could be a rallying cry. Could be a turning point. They get to choose what that outcome would be. And guess what? They chose dubs. What a week the Raptors have had. They started off, fresh off that loss and so much talk in between. And we heard from everybody, saying that was unacceptable. We know Darko spoke to the team about it. You heard the players come out and talk about how they talked about it and how that would never happen again. And they understood what was going down. And talk is one thing. But then the show on the court, exactly what happened as well. And they come out, they play the Suns, they win 122-115. And if I'm being honest, I looked at that game and that game seemed to be a classic Raptors this season where they're playing against a pretty decent team. It just didn't look like they had it going. Outside of Brandon Ingram, didn't look like anyone had it going. Ingram drops 36 in that game. RJ drops 22 in that game. And they get to the fourth quarter, and it's a massive comeback victory. They come back from 10 points down in the fourth, capped by a massive block by Scotty Barnes on Jalen Green, which I think is one of the highlights of the season for sure, because that was just a massive, massive block. That led to a dunk from RJ. The crowd was going crazy, reacts aplenty. I mean, it also gave us a great opening out of that where, we were able to partner with Justin Bieber and do a Bieber opening for our next game against Detroit, which is pretty cool. But hey, story for another day. But what I mean is the vibes were high. The vibes were back. You could see the building rocking. You could see everyone super excited. And listen, Brandon Ingram did his thing and getting buckets because that's what he does for this Raptors team. RJ Barrett has been super consistent. He was getting buckets for the Raptors. Scotty Barnes making massive defensive plays and like game-changing plays. Because there's one thing to make a big play, in the first quarter, second quarter, whatever. But in winning time, it's a reminder that plays can be made at both ends of the floor. And Scotty Barnes made a massive play at the end of that game to win it for the Raps. A huge block on Jalen Green, his buddy. But they carried on that momentum into the next game where they're taking on the top seeded Detroit Pistons, and the Raptors came out with another victory. Back-to-back solid victories, 119-108 win against the Pistons. Ingram led the way again with 34 points. RJ had 27. Yak chipped in with 21 and 18. His best game of the season. Again, I got to say that again. 21 points and 18 rebounds for Jakob Poeltl. Just crazy, crazy stuff there. Raptors followed up that win with another win against the Chicago Bulls, 139-109. I mean, the positives in that game, the positives just of this little mini run the Raptors have been on in response to maybe like a low point of the season against the Pelicans, right? You come back, 3 big-time wins. You do what you're supposed to do against the Chicago Bulls, but you have good wins against 2 good teams in the Detroit Pistons and the Phoenix Suns. And I think that was super important for the Raptors, right? Because we knew they beat the bad teams. Everyone knows that. Everyone gets that. But to have that response, to come back against the Suns, and then to just have a great front-to-back performance against the Pistons, I think that's really good showing for the Toronto Raptors and a great response. That's what you want to see, because talking is easy. Anyone can talk. Hey, I'm a schmuck talking into a mic right now. Anyone can talk. But they went out on the court and actually showed, hey, we're going to use this as, something to motivate us going forward, and we're going to build together, build going forward as a team. But other positives, I mean, Brandon Ingram he's had an all-star season, obviously, but 2 30 pieces against the Pistons and the Suns, sometimes basketball can be pretty simple. And you need your star players to obviously show out in those big games, but Brandon Ingram's averaging about 22 points a game this season. But to know that against the big boy teams, you got to step up your game, and he's delivered with 30-point pieces against those 2, the Suns and the Pistons. And those are 2, solid defensive teams, especially the Pistons. And more importantly, outside of Brandon Ingram, your star, your guy who's supposed to get you those buckets, bring you home in crunch time, you have RJ Barrett, who is on fire. RJ is averaging 23.6 points per game on 60% shooting in the month of March. He has just been on fuego. And it's crazy because he was having a really good year. He got hurt. Then there were some struggles there for a bit, but he's really started to find his groove again. And I think RJ's consistent scoring is something that this Raptors team needs. Because what we talked about a lot, right, is how does this team fit? How do the pieces meld together with this Raptor squad? Because you have Scotty Barnes, because you have Emmanuel Quickly. But if you just look at like ball dominance, we get that in crunch time, they're going to want to give Ingram the ball and have him create and make plays. But if Ingram's ball dominating, if Scotty Barnes has the ball, if Emmanuel Quickly's your starting point guard, and you also have RJ Barrett, it's going to be tough to kind of find who gets the touches when, who's leading the offense when. And I think this little run, or I think the team's been at its best when RJ is scoring buckets. And the flip side of this is Scotty Barnes, right? Scotty Barnes' scoring has been down since the All-Star break, right? He's only averaging 15.8 since in the month of March, right? He's averaging 15 points a game in the month of March. RJ is now past Scotty by little, percentages in scoring. RJ's up to 19 a game. Scotty's down to 18.7 points per game. But I think the bigger thing for me is I'm not going to knock Scotty for his numbers being down. His scoring's down. His rebounds and assists are down a notch since the All-Star break. But I'm not going to knock him because I think we know that he's a little bit banged up, but he's playing through it. And not only is he playing through it, but he's still being a massive contributor to this Toronto Raptors team, especially at the defensive end. And I think it's kind of cool to see them sort of see the different versions of what this team can be. And if Scotty is that guy that is anchoring the defense, that is focusing on ball movement, getting Yak involved, like we know you see it all the time, how much Scotty loves when Yak's in the game and he's able to just find him rolling to the basket for easy buckets, and how a healthy Yakapurtle, which could be the most important part of all of this, just makes this team fit better, right? Because Yak is a guy on the court that doesn't need the ball in his hands to be productive. And I think that's something that this Raptors team and this unit kind of struggled with. You need guys on the floor that can contribute to the game without having the ball in their hands. So think about that. It's like rebounding, it's playing defense, it's boxing out, it's helping on defense, it's setting screens, it's rolling to the basket, like all of these things that you're doing to help your teammates. It's not just you have the ball in your hands. Are you creating a play for yourself? Right? So Yakapurtle being there helps Scotty Barnes out because he's not having to bang around and rebound, with the Giants as much as he does when Yak's not there. And I think for RJ and even for Quickly, even though I think Quickly struggled a little bit here. I mean, he had one brutal game the other night where he started, I want to say like 1 for 13 or something like that. But I think what Yak in the lineup, what he does for RJ, what he does for IQ, and even for BI is he sets such good screens. And, we've heard them talk about it and Quickly talked about it a lot, about being able to read what Yak is doing. Yak, is he going to roll to the basket? Is he setting the screen at the top of the key? Which side is he setting the screen at? Even just moving the ball, right? The getting the pass and being able to swing it quickly, not holding the ball, not allowing the defense to pause where the defense can get set up, having the defense having to constantly be reacting to the ball movement. All of these things put together has the Raptors looking really good again. Yakapurtle just being a stabilizing force. It's so good. And there's such a difference when he is in the lineup versus to when he's missing. And, that improves the depth of your bench, obviously, because now Mamu moves back to the bench. Or if you have CMB, I know he's been out, but, when he comes back, you're just helping the depth of this team, which we know is an issue as well. But either way, great response from the Toronto Raptors, and they're back up to 5th in the Eastern Conference, but it's getting very tight in the Eastern Conference right now. Raptors, as mentioned, 5th, but they're a game and a half up on the Hawks and Magic for 6th and 7th in the Eastern Conference, and just 2 games up on the Heat and Sixers for 8th and 9th. So you can't really have a long losing streak. You can't really have, you can't sputter here. You got to get wins. And, this is going to be a little tough run for the Raps coming up because they play the Nuggets on Friday night and followed by Phoenix on Sunday, Utah on Monday, and the Clippers on Wednesday. So 4 road games, pretty tough games there, minus a Utah one. And so you're hoping to come out of there bare minimum 2-2, right? Like you got to get one of those Clippers or the Phoenix game, if not both, on top of Utah, obviously. And the Nuggets, listen, that's a tough game. Nuggets are a big boy team, and the Nuggets are coming into this game where they lost to Memphis, which, Memphis isn't doing a whole lot of winning this season, but they beat the Nuggets, who are playing their team. Like Jokic played, Aaron Gordon, I'm not sure if Aaron Gordon played in that game, but Jamal Murray played, Christian Brown played. They had their squad and they lost to Memphis. So coming in to now hosting the Raptors, obviously, you're going from a road game in Memphis, coming back home, you're hosting the Raptors. I think you might be getting a very good version of the Denver Nuggets here, a locked in version, despite the fact they're 5-5 over their last 10. They've beaten the Raps in Toronto, if you remember, on New Year's Eve without Nikola Jokic. That was a crazy game. If we go back and remember what happened there, where Jokic doesn't play, he got injured, I want to say maybe the game before or a couple games before that trip. And it was New Year's Eve, like the night of New Year's Eve. That game was like a 7:00 start. And the Nuggets were winning. Your man's Bruce Brown had a chance to ice the game at the line, but he missed the free throw. The Raptors pass it up to Brandon Ingram, who hit like a turnaround fadeaway bank shot off the window at the buzzer. And, crowd goes crazy. Everyone's all hype, but then they review it. And he was just a little late from sending it to OT. But still, the vibes were there. Vibes were high. But if we're also being honest, playing the Nuggets without Nikola Jokic shouldn't come down to a last-second shot if you're the Toronto Raptors. So a good chance at redemption for them as well. But they're facing a Nuggets team. Jokic is back. Aaron Gordon is back. CMB is questionable right now at the time that we're recording this on Friday morning. So we'll see if he's in the lineup because the Raps inside will need all the help they can get against Jokic. He's obviously a handful. He will get his numbers against the Raps because, he gets his numbers against any and everybody. Home, road, no matter what. Jamal Murray balls against the Raptors. When he plays them, he sees that jersey. The Nuggets have won 5 straight and 8 of their last 10 against the Raps. So they will be in tough. Spreads around 6.5, 7.5, depending on where you're looking to get your spread in on that game. I think the Raps should be able to keep it close, but, it's the Nuggets. The Nuggets are a serious, serious, serious team. So we'll see how that goes for sure. Let's keep things going, though. As mentioned, lots of news and notes in the NBA. There's some tough injury news. We'll start with Cade Cunningham. And, he gets hurt after colliding, going after a loose ball against the Washington Wizards. This from Shams. Detroit Pistons star Cade Cunningham has been diagnosed with a collapsed lung and is expected to miss an extended period of time, sources tell ESPN. Now, this is a tough one because Cade Cunningham was having an MVP type season. He probably wasn't going to win because Shea is just Shea and Jokic is just Jokic. It's tough to beat out those guys. But, maybe if you're talking Eastern Conference MVP, if that was a thing, Cade Cunningham was doing that for the Detroit Pistons. And I think the initial reports out of Detroit, they're kind of breathing a sigh of relief. And I didn't mean that as a pun as we're talking about lungs, but whatever. My bad. I think they're kind of relaxing a little because it could have been a lot worse. There was a fear maybe it was a broken rib. And if it's a broken rib, obviously that injury is lasting a lot longer. But at this point, they know that he can't do anything for 2 weeks. He couldn't even fly with that injury, right? So he had to drive back to Detroit. Can't do anything for 2 weeks. They're going to reassess it. But basically, you're done for 4 weeks. The hope is after the 4 weeks, he's going to be okay. And he can resume basketball activities. And, that puts you right about where the playoffs would start. The lucky thing here for, being a good team like the Pistons is you got some breathing room. Damn, I did it again. What's with these? I got to get my cliches in order here. But you know what I'm saying. They got some room to work with here in terms of they're obviously in first place. And then with the play-in, there's a week in between the end of the regular season and the start of the playoffs. So there's an extra week of rest and recovery there for Cade Cunningham. And I think, it's good for them to use all of that. Obviously, the play-in is too difficult in terms of trying to project who you could be playing in that 8 or 7, whoever ends up with those seeds, depending on where they finish first or second. So you can't really project that. But even if you miss the first couple games just because you're trying to get back, into shape, I think they'll still be okay and be able to get past a first round matchup against some of those teams that are down there if you're the Pistons. And I think having this runway where you get to play a lot more of your guys, get them more experience where you need them, and even let Duren cook a little more as being the main guy. That's all just good experience for a team that has expectations of making a run in the playoffs. So while you don't want your star player to go down, it does also bring good opportunity for other guys to step up. And at the top of the standings, they're in first place right now in the East. But if we take a look at where, they are, or the room that they have at the top, they're 4 games up on Boston. And I want to say 5 games up on the Knicks, but they have the tiebreaker against the Knicks. But even if you fall to 2, even if you fall to 3, if you're a serious team trying to make a run, that shouldn't really matter. If you're 1, 2, or 3. It really shouldn't. If you're a serious team with serious expectations. Now you might be asking, are the Detroit Pistons a serious team with serious expectations? Well, that's a story for another day. And I think a story that should be discussed when Cade is healthy. Right now, it's just about surviving. Can you make it through this little run where, you see some development from some of your young guys? You see some progression and some growth from, Duran, who obviously made the All-Star team, but is still a guy that has so much more room and potential to grow, especially offensively, and being the focal point of the offense. So we'll see how that goes. But again, scary sight for Cade Cunningham, out for 4 weeks. But I mean, the worst part about this could have been like a 12-week injury. So they're hoping they avoid that, obviously, but we'll update that as we go along. And of course, people are already out there talking about the 65 game minimum and all that. And it's just like, can we just stop with this argument? Right? Because the 65 game mark that everyone's mad about, and now we got to make sure star players play 65 games and now guys are hurt. And it's like, really? This is where we're at. We're arguing about star players having to play 65 games in a regular season. That can't be a real thing that people argue about in the NBA. It makes no sense to me. So I'm going to just keep going and bypass that and whatever. Let's switch it. Let's keep going because there's some other NBA stars that are also injured at the end of the season. And I think, hey, that's just a part of the game. Like, part of all of this is high stakes, big business. Part of it is figuring it out. And if there are injuries, it's not about, removing games. If you're playing a faster pace and the game's so different and we play a faster pace, and so it's wear and tear on the bodies. Well, guess what? Maybe don't play at that fast of a pace. How about that? How about develop a bench so that your stars aren't playing 35 plus minutes at such a high pace? Develop some bench guys so that your starters don't have to play all those minutes. How about that? I don't know. Anyways, Anthony Edwards also out. He's going to miss. He's going to be reevaluated in 1 to 2 weeks due to right knee inflammation. I think, this is a tough one because much like the Cade Cunningham injury, I think this is a good opportunity for the rest of the T-Wolves to kind of step up, and Ant covers up a lot of their misgivings. And, Julius Randle has struggled, especially since the All-Star break. I think this gets him a chance to get back on track and lead the team. Like, we know he's capable of getting buckets, and that's a team that's really built on defense anyways. So I think having room on offense where you have Naz Reid who could step in and get buckets for you. Mentioned Julius Randle. Bones Highland's never seen a shot that he's afraid to take. So you have guys who could put points on the board. It's just about stabilizing, right? You're not going to have the highs of the highs without Anthony Edwards, of course, but you shouldn't fall off the map either. And this is a team that's been very weird this season in a very tough Western Conference, but they've had moments this season where they've looked incredible, like they could beat anybody in the West. And then they've had moments where they just look totally incompetent against the Lakers and Clippers. And I mean, hey, everyone looks bad against OKC from time to time, so we get that. But either way, I hope Ant is back after the, sometime soon, because the league is just a better place with Anthony Edwards, right? Giannis is also down. Giannis is injured, hurt his knee, 5th injury of the season. But the real storyline here is this from Shams, okay? Shams put this out. He says, Milwaukee Bucks want Giannis Antetokounmpo to shut down for the remainder of the season after his latest injury and the team's playoff chances dwindled. But Antetokounmpo has refused the team's request and wants to play again, sources tell ESPN. There have been multiple meetings over Antetokounmpo's status in the last 24 hours since his hyperextended knee diagnosis, and a disagreement has ensued between the sides on whether it is best for him to return, sources said. I am tired. Close quote, by the way. Thank you, Shams. But I got to say this, okay? I am tired of these stories of Giannis and the Bucks not being on the same page. Can we just make up our minds? Whatever it is that you guys want to do, Does Giannis want to stay? Does he want to go? Does he want to play? Does he not want to play? Whatever it is, stop leaking the info to Shams and just talk to each other. If you want to play and that's what's going on, talk to the team. And I'm sure they're going to do whatever you want to do because you're Giannis and they want to keep you long term. There's an extension that's looming at some point. But my point is, this doesn't have to draw out in the media. I don't want to know about this anymore. Either trade him or don't trade him. Either play him or don't play him. But these leaks, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing? Let's get back to talking about basketball on the court, okay? Because there is a lot of stuff to talk about on the court. And one of those things to talk about on the court is this run that the Los Angeles Lakers are currently on. They've won 8 in a row and 11 of their last 12. They are absolutely cooking. This past week, they had a back-to-back against the Rockets. And, you know, that's kind of cool when you're getting 2 meetings of 2 high-profile teams, but also 2 teams with championship aspirations, you know, and 2 games. I mean, that's like a little mini series right there. And let's be honest, it did not look good for the Houston Rockets. For the Lakers, they're just, you know, they're hitting their stride. They are peaking at the perfect time. And it's funny because so much of the hot take NBA culture, you know, it's, oh, should we take the Lakers seriously? Are the Lakers for real? All of that. And now they're in 3rd in the West. It's like, you have to take them for real. Things look to just be fitting in place. And part of that is, hey, everyone's healthy. All 3 of LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves, they're in the lineup at the same time for the first time really this season on a consistent basis. So what happens when all the pieces are there? Well, you're easily able to define roles. And I think that's what we're seeing here. There's so much talk and narrative about LeBron. You know, is it Luka's team? Is it LeBron's team? Is LeBron just a role player now? What does LeBron do? Is he the 3rd banana, the 3rd stringer behind Luka and Reeves? Whatever it is, however you want to phrase it, right? From a usage standpoint, we've seen it, and now the Lakers have acknowledged it. The usage is obviously going to go from Luka to Austin Reeves and then LeBron. That's pretty good, right? Like if you're looking at teams around the NBA, there's very few that could have a better threesome than that. So now how did the other pieces fit? Well, with all the injuries that they've dealt with this season, other guys have gotten a chance to play. Like Marcus Smart might be a perfect fit for that team for what he does because they need someone to kind of muck it up and play defense and be a pest and be annoying and really have the confidence to just keep shooting open threes. Because when you're playing alongside dudes with such high usage in terms of Luka, Austin Reeves, LeBron, you're going to get a lot of wide open looks and you better be ready to shoot them. And if there's a dude that's ready to shoot threes and that's not going to be shook by missing 1 or 2 of them, it is your man's Marcus Smart. So like that fits. How does Hachimura fit into this? You know, obviously, you know, they're getting great play from LaRavia. And I just think the Lakers are an interesting team. You know, I think as the pieces start to fit together, you're seeing LeBron fitting in. He's jumping on loose balls. You're seeing them work him in, whether he's getting the ball down low in the post or in the high post. You know, he's setting screens. Like all of these things, you're just seeing them gear up for the playoffs. And if you have Luka, LeBron on your team, you have a chance against anybody in the league, right? Do I think the Lakers are going to make the NBA Finals? No. But they have a chance, right? If you tell me you have Luka and LeBron, of course you have a chance against anybody, anywhere, any court, doesn't matter, right? And I just think the key being as well, DeAndre Jordan figuring out, hey, my job can be pretty good if I just rebound, play defense, roll to the basket. I can have a pretty good life here. And the sooner he's starting to kind of figure that out after what's been an interesting season of him, you see him getting testy with the media at certain points, right? So all of that's been pretty cool to see. The Lakers just on this run, and they're up to third in the West. And the Western Conference playoffs is all going to come down to matchups, because there's certain teams that will match up well against some, and then that same team would look horrible in a matchup against another team. So like the Lakers look great against the Rockets, right? The Lakers against OKC, I don't know how that goes. I don't think they look as good against OKC. The Lakers against the Spurs, I don't know how good they look against the Spurs, right? So it's going to be such an interesting matchup down the stretch, because the Nuggets, another example, Nuggets will look good against the Lakers. They'll look good against the Rockets. Against OKC, just the matchups are a little bit different, right? So OKC looks good against the Nuggets, but not against Spurs. Like, it's going to be so interesting how the Western Conference playoffs match up, because depending on how the seeds break down, and I know this happens at some point and we kind of overlook that because we forget like the details, but that's how the Mavs made the finals. It's just the matchups just set up in the right way, where your worst matchup ends up playing someone else and they get knocked out. And then now you get the better matchup in the next round. So, it was like the T-Wolves were the better matchup against the Nuggets, but a worse matchup against Luka and the Mavs. So like that just happens. And this playoff's going to be no different in the Western Conference. But shouts to the Lakers, man, because we know there's so much talk, there's so much media. And for as much as, I'm based in Toronto, and all the talk is about how tough the Leafs media is, and it's so stressful and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yo, man, there's a team in LA. There's a bunch of teams in LA. And I'm not hearing, Luka and LeBron being like, oh, the media is so tough to deal with in LA. We have to answer all these questions every day. Just miss me with that, man. Miss me with that. But shouts to the Lakers. They're doing it. They're doing the thing. They're winning a bunch of games. JJ Redick has them balling. And I think on top of just where they're at right now, hey, there could be room to improve. As they keep LeBron healthy heading into the playoffs, as you keep DeAndre Jordan, you keep him motivated, could be pretty good. It's going to be interesting. On the flip side, though, we got to start asking some questions about the Houston Rockets, because I mentioned they lose both of those games to the Lakers. But there's some glaring holes there. And I know in one of the games, Şengün wasn't there and KD had some trouble. I mean, KD came out after the game talking about how it was his fault. They lost. He made a bunch of turnovers. They weren't really handling the double teams well, or, kind of the blitz package, so to speak, that the Lakers were throwing at KD. Because the reality is, we even saw this when the Raptors played the Rockets, and the Rockets are a good team, but there's holes there, right? Like, other than Durant, they're a super young team. Like, you're relying on Amen Thompson, super young, Şengün, super young, Reed Shepherd, super young. And then you have Kevin Durant, who's obviously walking in the door with the expectation of winning a championship. And those young guys, it's going to take some time to develop. And I think, add in Jabari Smith in there too. And I think because they got Kevin Durant, because they took such a huge step forward the prior 2 years heading into this season, you almost forget how young their team is. And so even with all the burner account stuff that came out with, the talk of, oh, they're a bad defensive team, or they're not a smart team, all those things, when you watch them play, you can see a lot of those flaws, right? And like, one thing I find super funny, well, two things. One, they struggle at certain points because, yes, as mentioned, they're kids, right? And you're asking for so much more from Şengün, from Amen, from Reed, and I don't know if Reed is ready. And I do find it funny. There's a media contingent always talking up Reed Shepherd and how come he's not playing more? How come he's not handling the ball more? How come he's not more of a focal point of their team? And when you really watch them play on a consistent basis, he's just not ready for that. Like, his handle's not tight enough to really, like, if you're a defense and you're pressuring him, his handle's not really tight enough to to handle the pressure of like full court being guarded really hard. And his defense, I mean, he's just not ready to play defense at a high level, and not even at a high level, but at a decent level in the NBA. And that's really the issue with Reed Shepherd and how come he's not getting a lot more burn. But that's going to take time. I obviously think, though, like this is a good team, but I think they're like one tweak away. And obviously, Fred VanVleet, missing him is huge because that's a vet. But they're one tweak away, I think, next year of being, legit contenders. Because right now, I just think they're super young, and this is a little bit of growing pains that they're dealing with here. But again, all this goes out the window based on matchups, because I think they could match up okay against Denver, right? Like they could match up okay against Denver. I think they could match up okay against the Lakers. I know the Lakers just beat them, but I think those teams, you want older teams that play more in the half court, would be better. If they're playing the younger team, right? Like the OKC, the Spurs, those teams are just going to make them play fast. And the one thing the Rockets cannot do, they cannot play fast, right? They want to slow it down, which I think they probably should play faster. But with Şengün being such a big part of their team, they probably don't really want to do that. And they don't have, without Fred, Reed can't guard, playing up and down fast defense like that. So the matchups are going to be super important for them as well. But there's a world. Slow down offense in the playoffs. KD has covered up a lot of offensive flaws for them for the majority of this season. So that could continue. But there's a lot there. It just points to the fact that the Western Conference playoffs, I mean, heck, the Eastern Conference playoffs, the playoffs in general in the NBA are going to be so good. And I can't wait, because I think it's going to be so much fun, because you have so many storylines. And as much as I just said, hey, I don't know if I believe in the Lakers to make it to the finals, I don't know if I believe in the Rockets to make it to the finals, that's just more so about Wemby just being a complete freak right now, and what the Spurs are doing. As you saw, they clinched their first playoff berth in a long time, since what was it, 2019 maybe? I forgot the stat, but the point is, Wemby has them back. They are balling. They are a problem. They are real. And they're going to be a force. And so everyone's assuming, obviously, it's going to come down to OKC and the Spurs, but I'm not going to really count out Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. So, and then on top of that, we're talking about Kevin Durant, and we're talking about Luka and LeBron. Can we really count out those teams? Like, if those teams went on a run, like I could say I'd be surprised, but at the end of the day, it's like, oh yeah, it's Luka and LeBron. Of course they're in the finals, right? They put together a good month of basketball, good month and a half. So you see it, you get it, you understand it. Either way, so much going on in the NBA, great times there. But, I can't leave this pod without discussing the fact that the WNBA is back. And I'm super excited about this. I know people who follow the pods or follow me know that I love the WNBA, like, because this is a whole other longer discussion. I probably do this with Webby at one point once the season starts, because we're going to talk about the WNBA on this pod. But I love the WNBA because I love basketball. And so that's always my the first thing I go to when discussing the WNBA with someone, right? Because I know a lot of people are just going to write off women's sports because that's what people do. And listen, I'm not here to have some culture war debate or discussion. Do that on your own time. My thing about the WNBA is it's great basketball, and I love basketball. So I love the WNBA. And the funny thing is, when you make the comparison in just the style of play, the things that I hate about the NBA, like what we call the foul hunting, or how Luka and people say Shea, like the foul baiting every time, the Austin Reeves, I'm driving in the lane and I'm not trying to score, I'm trying to get fouled. Like, that doesn't happen in the WNBA. And it's so refreshing to watch, teams run offensive sets, right? And watch screens and people cutting to the basket and backdoor passes and like Basketball. I'm sorry to say it, but it's the same thing when we watch the Olympics. The beauty of watching the Olympics, even the men's game last summer, whenever that was, 2 summers ago, same thing. You're removing all of the ISO ball that has just dominated the NBA. So with all that, that's my introduction into, hey, I love the WNBA because I love basketball. And if you love basketball, maybe this is your entryway. If you haven't given the WNBA a fair shot, first off, where you been, that's on you. That's not good. But there's always opportunity to change and grow. Yo, my boy Don was the one that put me on the WNBA, and this goes back like maybe like 10 years ago at least. Because I remember he was talking about Maya Moore, and he's like, no, if you watch her game, like she cooks mid-range, hezzies, step backs. And I remember and he was right. And so I'd like dabbled in it. I'd watched a bit, like I knew enough about Candace Parker. So I'd like seen certain things, and, obviously, Sue Bird and Taurasi. So like I knew enough, and I'd watch a little bit here and there, but that was the first time when it was really like lock-in mode, like, oh, okay. And the game has just gotten better and better and better to where we are now, where you got Paige Buckets, who, is like a little mini Maya Moore clone in terms of just, the shiftiness in her game and ability, like the ability to score at all 3 levels. Like there's so much good in the WNBA that I'm excited for this. And I've gone so long talking about it, I didn't even mention the fact that there's a Toronto team that is now in the WNBA. So of course I'm going to be all over that. And of course we're going to talk about that on the Canada Hoops Daily podcast. And the Tempo will be playing their first season. We'll be covering them on this pod, but it's going to be a wild couple weeks. So for those who might not be aware, the WNBA landmark collective bargaining agreement, new salary cap that starts at $7 million, which is up from $1.5 million. So the average revenue share of nearly 20% across the deal, supermax deal, meaning your star players starting at 1.4 million. Average salary is in the range of 600,000. The minimum is above 300,000. This is all positive stuff. This is all good stuff. And, I think the way that the internet discusses things now has to turn it into who won, who lost, the players won, did they get enough? Oh, they held. And it's like, listen, the owners are always going to win because big bank always beats little bank. Okay. So the owners are always going to win. I also say, who cares? We get to watch basketball. I don't care who won. I don't really care who lost. They got more money. They wanted more money. They got more money. How much more money? All the little intricacies of it. I'm sure there's going to be things they like. There's going to be things they didn't like. Bottom line is we're not missing a season of WNBA basketball at a time where the popularity of the WNBA just continues to rise. So it would have been really bad to lose a full season. The other part of this next couple weeks, though, is that things are about to get crazy. Because for people who don't and listen, I get it. A bunch of people don't follow the WNBA. I understand. But people knew about the CBA, obviously, being up at the end of last season. So basically, every single star in the league that wasn't under a rookie contract had their contract set up to end last season. Meaning, right now, with the season about to start, everybody is a free agent. Basically, every star, yes, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina, Kelsey Plum, Nafisa Collier, Jewel Lloyd, Kalia Copper, like every single star in the WNBA who is not on their rookie deal, meaning not Paige, not Caitlin, right? But everybody else, they're a free agent. Meaning there's some wild stuff that could be going on here where, people want to team up and go, you can make some super teams somewhere. But if you're a new team, like, I don't know, the Toronto Tempo, you have a great opportunity to build a really good team right out the gate because of all this room under the salary cap, a heightened salary cap, but also you have a clean slate. So you could come in, and the key here of having Sandy Brondello as your coach, someone with such a resume and reputation in the league and relationships in the league, is you might be able to get some legit stars to want to come play for your expansion team, because you're able to get 2 or 3 people to sign up and say, hey, we want to come join and follow Sandy and join the team that she's rocking with in Toronto. I'm just saying, what a time. And this is all going to go down very quickly. So you're going to have the expansion draft, which is happening April 6th. Then there's a free agency period from April 7th to 11th. Free agent signing period from April 12th to 18th. The WNBA draft is April 13th. And then training camp starts on the 19th. Opening night in WNBA is May 8th. And all of that is happening while the women's March Madness is also going on right now. What a time to be alive for basketball fans. I can't wait. So yes, if you're wondering, will we be talking Toronto Tempo? Yes, we will be talking Toronto Tempo on this pod. I can't wait. And I'm already looking to see, because I wonder what the Tempo are going to do. Because I see, my anticipation is, because there's obviously a marketing and a branding side of what you want to be able to do, being, the Toronto team in their first year. And will there be ties to Canada basketball? Are they going to go out and try to get Bridget Carlton or Kia Nurse to be on the posters, to be out there and, be front and center in terms of selling this team in this city this summer? Will you be able to try and go get a big name? And I'm not talking, we know Asia's going to re-sign with the Aces, right? We know that already. All of them became free agents, especially if you're the top of the top, like Asia, Brianna Stewart. You become a free agent because you're signing for at least that 1.4 M's, right? So the people just below that, though, can they go out and get a Kelsey Plum, a Kalia Copper? I don't know. A Jackie Young, maybe? I don't know. Anything is possible. And so the next couple of weeks will be so much fun. We'll break it all down. And obviously when Webby's back, we'll discuss that with him as well, because I know he's a hoop head that enjoys the WNBA as well. But between the WNBA, March Madness, the NBA, the playoffs are coming around soon. The Raptors are rolling. So much to talk about. Thank you for tuning into this, the Canada Hoops Daily Podcast. Again, make sure you follow, and subscribe wherever you happen to be watching this podcast. Really appreciate y'all. Just bless us with the maybe a retweet, a share. Tell your friends if they like basketball. If you're Canadian, you like talking about the Raptors, this is the place. If you want to talk Toronto Tempo, this is the place. We will be talking basketball from a Canadian angle, because that's what we do here. Again, Apple, Spotify, and of course, YouTube is where you can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Search Canada Hoops Daily or search Sheldon Alexander. If you follow me on socials, you'll be able to get to all the content. Really appreciate y'all, as always, messing with us here as we just talk ball. Webby will be back. He'll be joining us soon. Don't worry about that. We'll discuss when he's back on the pod, but I really appreciate y'all. You can find me online at Shell Alexander on Twitter, at Sheldon Alexander on Instagram, and send in your comments and questions. If there's anything you want us to talk about, you want our opinions on, send me that link, send me that comment, wherever you want. Tell your friends, we're here. But as I always say, I used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is Canada Hoops Daily Podcast. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.